They hurt you. You left. But somehow you went back. And you hate yourself for it. But what if this isn't weakness? What if your brain was literally wired to keep you attached to the person who hurt you the most? This is trauma bonding, and understanding it might be the first thing that finally sets you free. First, let's clear something up. Trauma bonding is not about being naive. It's not about being desperate. It's not about having low standards. It is a neurological process, one that happens to intelligent, self-aware, strong people. The term was first identified by psychologist Patrick Carnes, who studied why people in abusive situations developed powerful emotional bonds with their abusers. What he found was this. The bond doesn't form despite the abuse. It forms because of the specific pattern of the abuse. And to understand why, you need to understand something about how your brain processes unpredictable rewards. Think about a slot machine. If a slot machine paid out every single time you pulled the lever, you'd play for a while, feel satisfied, and eventually stop. If it never paid out, you'd stop after a few tries and walk away. But if it pays out sometimes, unpredictably, you can't stop pulling the lever. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it is the most powerful psychological hook that exists. B.F. Skinner, a Harvard psychologist, proved in the 1950s that intermittent reward schedules produce behavior that is far more resistant to change than consistent ones. In plain terms, inconsistency is more addictive than consistency. Now apply that to a person. Sometimes they're warm, attentive, the person you fell in love with. Sometimes they withdraw, criticize, hurt. And your brain, searching for the pattern, trying to predict the next moment of warmth, becomes completely focused on them. Not because you're weak, because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: pursue uncertain rewards with everything it has. And that's just the beginning, because there's also the chemistry. When you're in a trauma bond, your brain is flooded with 4 chemicals, and together they create something that functions like addiction. The first is dopamine. You already know this one from our last video. It's the drive chemical, the one that makes you want to pursue, try, keep going. In a trauma bond, dopamine spikes during the warm moments, the affection, the apology, the I love you after the hurt. But here's the critical part. Research shows dopamine flows more strongly when the reward is intermittent, meaning the unpredictability itself amplifies the addiction. The second is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's released during physical touch, emotional intimacy, eye contact. The problem, it doesn't distinguish between a safe person and an unsafe one. It bonds you to whoever is present during those moments, regardless of how they've treated you. So even if they hurt you on Tuesday, if they hold you on Wednesday, your brain is cementing the bond. The third, cortisol, the stress hormone. During abusive or hurtful moments, cortisol floods your system. Your body goes into threat mode, heart racing, thoughts spinning, hypervigilance. And here is the cruel paradox. When the person who caused the stress then offers comfort, your flooded, dysregulated system grabs onto that comfort with an intensity that would never exist in a calm, stable relationship. Your nervous system has literally been conditioned to seek relief from the person causing the pain. The fourth is adrenaline. The cycle of tension, conflict, and reconciliation create adrenaline spikes. And over time, your nervous system mistakes that adrenaline for passion. The highs feel higher, the reconnections feel electric. And when you compare that to a calm, stable relationship, the stable one can feel flat. Not because you don't deserve calm, but because your nervous system has been recalibrated towards chaos. So now you have all 4: dopamine craving, oxytocin bonding, cortisol-driven comfort seeking, adrenaline mistaken for passion. Helen Fisher's research, using brain scans of people who had been rejected by romantic partners, showed activity in the same brain regions as cocaine addicts craving a fix. Not metaphorically addicted, neurologically, literally, the same circuits. Which means leaving a trauma bond is not a decision, it is a withdrawal.
And now you understand why just leave, the most common advice, is almost never enough on its own. Now, let's look at how it forms, because trauma bonds don't happen overnight. Stage 1 is love bombing. The abuser showers you with attention, affection, admiration at an intensity that feels extraordinary. This isn't love, this is a setup, and it creates a baseline of this is what they're capable of that you'll spend the rest of the relationship trying to get back to. Stage 2, trust and dependency. They position themselves as your everything, your best friend, your therapist, your safe person, often while subtly isolating you from other support. Stage 3, devaluation. The warmth starts to disappear. Criticism, cold shoulders, withholding affection. You feel confused because you know what they're capable of from the love bombing, and you chase that version of them. Stage 4, gaslighting. That never happened. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. Over time, you stop trusting your own memory of events. And when you can't trust your own perception of events, you become dependent on theirs. Stage 5, resignation. You stop arguing, stop trying to be heard. You accommodate, apologize for things that aren't your fault, make yourself smaller, not because you agree, but because it's safer. Stage 6, the bond strengthens. Here is the paradox that confuses everyone, including the person in it. The more the cycle of hurt and reconciliation repeats, the more neurologically entrenched the bond becomes. Pain followed by relief is one of the strongest conditioning loops in neuroscience. Stage 7, loss of self.
Your interests, your friendships, your sense of who you were before, gradually replaced by the relationship and its cycles. You forget what you liked, what you wanted, even what you were like when you felt safe. How do you know if this is what you're experiencing? There are 5 signs. Sign 1, you defend them to everyone, even to yourself. Sign 2, leaving feels more terrifying than staying. Sign 3, the good moments feel so good they justify the bad ones. Sign 4, you feel responsible for their emotions and behavior. Sign 5, you've tried to leave and come back more than once. If you recognize yourself in any of these, this isn't a reflection of your intelligence or your strength or your worth. It's a reflection of the fact that something very specific happened in your brain, and brains can change. So how do you actually break a trauma bond? Not just leave, how do you actually do it? 4 steps. Each one addresses a different layer of what's keeping you attached. Step 1, name it out loud. There is specific neuroscience behind naming an experience. When you label what's happening, this is trauma bonding, this is intermittent reinforcement, this is withdrawal, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the rational brain. And the prefrontal cortex can hold what the emotional brain cannot, the full picture. Not just how they make you feel in the good moments, but the pattern, the whole pattern. Step 2, interrupt the cycle physically. When you feel the pull to go back, your nervous system is in a state of dysregulation, and you cannot think your way out of a nervous system state. You have to move through it. Cold water on the face, a walk, slow breathing that extends the exhale. These aren't cliches, they're direct interventions on your parasympathetic nervous system. Step 3, understand that no contact is not punishment, it is medicine. Every time you check their social media, reread their messages, answer their call, you re-expose yourself to the substance, the dopamine spikes, the cycle restarts. No contact allows your brain's chemistry to gradually recalibrate. The withdrawal is real, the anxiety, the obsessive thoughts, the physical ache, but it passes, and on the other side is a nervous system that belongs to you again.
Step 4, rebuild the self that was there before.
The loss of self in stage 7 is real, but those parts of you are not gone. They're dormant, and they come back, not all at once, not immediately, but with small, deliberate acts of returning to yourself. What did you like before them? What did you want? What kind of quiet did you used to enjoy? Start there. And if possible, seek support from someone trained in trauma. Not because you're broken, but because trauma bonds are neurological events, and having a guide through the neurology speeds the recalibration. Let's come back to where we started. They hurt you. You left. You went back. You didn't go back because you're weak. You went back because 4 powerful chemicals were doing their job. Because a slot machine had been running inside the relationship from the very beginning. And because your brain is extraordinarily good at pursuing uncertain rewards, even when pursuing them costs you everything. You are not the problem. The pattern is. And patterns, unlike people, can be understood. And what we understand, we are no longer completely controlled by. Understanding it might be the first thing that finally sets you free.
If this video made you realize something about yourself, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not because it helps the channel, but because someone in your life right now is defending someone who hurts them, and they might not have the words for why they can't just leave. Now you do, and so do they. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding how your mind actually works, not just how to push through it. Next, we're looking at something that goes hand in hand with this: people-pleasing. Why you say yes when every part of you means no, and why it's destroying you more quietly than you realize.